um, the different relationships that we've created and the direction that they're going in, and just to get everybody generally excited about Kava in 2026. Um, so next slide, please. Right. So my name is Douglas LaRose. I have been drinking kava for about 25 years, and was one of the kind of early adopters of kava in the US, and started a blog called the Kava Sewer, which some of you may be familiar with, when I was in graduate school about 16, 17 years ago. And that blog was created because there was an absence of Kava information online at the time. You could pretty much only learn about Kava from reading books about travelers to the South Pacific, or reading like blog entries on different websites. So I created a website where I bought different Kavas and prepared them and drank them, and then talked about the effects they had and the ones that I liked and the ones I didn't like. And then generally just like this community grew naturally, uh, kind of parallel to the blog. And I became very good friends with a lot of people in the kava industry, in the kava community. And then last year I was asked to come in and lead the Kava Coalition's efforts. So it's really been the honor of a lifetime to lead the Kava Coalition, and to foster and deepen all these relationships, from the farmer, in rural Vanuatu or Solomon Islands or Fiji, to the kava bars here in the U.S., and to the future kava markets in places like the U.K. It's just been really really cool to see what we've been able to accomplish in this past year. So in this presentation, I'm going to go over the Kava Coalition, talk a little bit about the opportunities and the challenges in the kava industry. And then my good friend, Michael Louze, is going to give a presentation on kava in Vanuatu, an overview of kava culture and kava exports, and even some of the numbers that we've been seeing over the years. And then we'll have a very, very brief Q&A because we only have an hour. Um, so it'll be very brief, but any other questions can be sent to me or sent to Kava Coalition. Next slide. So the purpose of this webinar is really to update the community, and to get people excited about Kava in 2026. Um, as we all know, there are a lot of challenges in the kava industry, and they take all shapes and sizes. But there are kind of, existential policy threats, like different states trying to close down kava bars because of um, their interpretation of food law, to challenges with the agricultural production side. As we see a rising demand and interest in kava and the social and health benefits that kava brings to people, we see the kava agricultural sources struggling to keep up with that demand. Um, so one of the major missions of the Kava Coalition is to engage with the farming community in the South Pacific to sustainably increase the supply of kava, to onboard more farmers, and then to get more kava uh, exported and also available for those domestic markets. Um, we want to talk about the stakeholders we've been engaging with. The Kava Coalition is working directly with Pacific Island governments. I think most notably the government of Fiji, the government of Vanuatu. We're also working with other stakeholders in places like the Solomon Islands and Tonga, and as well as in Europe, we're working with the UK government and the high commissions in the UK to try to advance the legalization of kava in the UK. And we also want to, let people know that we exist, and that everybody from the person who goes to the kava bar and drinks a shell of kava a few times a week to, some of the biggest players in the industry. We want everybody to have a seat at the table, Despite differences, despite different visions for kava, we believe that this is a good environment to have conversations and to talk through things. Next slide. So the Kava Coalition is an alliance of Kava consumers, experts, and industry leaders committed to advancing Kava education, advocacy, and choice. And we are dedicated to creating a future where Kava is widely recognized and understood and accessible. So it's really important here to say that like when we go to regulators in places like California, for example, the Department of Public Health, uh, most people have no idea what kava is, or they've heard about it. They've seen the word, they've seen like an article here or there about kava, but they just see it as like this product that came onto the market and has some kind of psychoactive or social effect. They know that there are kava bars, but beyond that, the common understanding is pretty skin deep. So we really want to talk directly with legislators, policymakers, um, different important stakeholders in the public space to help them understand what kava is, its safety profile, its benefits, the role that it plays at kava bars in cities all over the US, and then deeper the history and the cultural significance, preserving that culture and that history, and also highlighting it and sharing it with other people so they can understand that kava comes from a very deep, sacred place within Pacific Island culture, uh, in places like Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga, um, and Hawaii, and that culture uh, is really important to understand, and that understanding all of those different cultural constellations and how they influence each other is really important. And even U.S. American kava culture has evolved, from those cultures, inspired by those cultures, but is also an important culture in and of itself for people to understand. So the state of Kava is very strong. It's a very exciting time for all of us in the Kava industry. I live in Baltimore, Maryland, where we have one Kava bar in the whole state, and the Kava bar just happens to be a mile from where I live. No, I'm not like financially involved with that Kava bar, but it opened here, and I became very good friends with the people that work there, and it's just a sign of the times that kava bars are opening everywhere, and they become really important social spaces for people. Every kava bar that I've been to in this country, I've been to about 50, you find groups of people that come in on a regular basis. They have these really deep, meaningful relationships, and they've built these relationships around kava because kava from the Pacific Islands to places like the US has always fostered social interaction and made people want to come together and talk about their life, their feelings, kind of talk through different conflicts that they're having. So as these bars open in more and more parts of the US and around the world, uh, it's inspiring to see the positivity that comes out of it, the importance of places like that, as opposed to your traditional bars where people get drunk and get in fights and stuff. The kava bars are safer. They're more positive, healthy social spaces. So it's just been really exciting to see that grow and to hear from people in that community. And then connected to that is the fact that it's kind of scary for some people when they hear about kava bars. So we want to make sure that policymakers and regulators understand what these spaces are and they're not afraid of these spaces. And we also know that we have the law behind us. Kava has been consumed in the United States for over 100 years, 140 or 150 years, and it should be grandfathered in as a generally regarded as safe food, grass. Um, but there's been a lot of disruptions to that, so we're trying to engage with those policymakers to understand the laws that they're supposed to be abiding to. Um, this another important thing to mention in the state of kava is that the production of kava is a big challenge. we know, by looking at a map of the South Pacific that these are very small countries, and they're doing the lion's share of the work in producing, cultivating, harvesting, cleaning, drying, and exporting kava. So the Kava community and the Kava Coalition really need to support their efforts to improve agricultural production and quality of kava being exported. Um, and on that note, the Kava Coalition does do market surveys where we buy kava off the market and send it to a third party lab and have the kava tested, and then we give feedback to those vendors to help improve the quality of kava on the market. And that's important because, one case of somebody getting sick from kava, due to salmonella or some other kind of microbial or bacterial infection could cause a lot of damage. So we want to make sure that we can self-govern and take care of our industry and keep it clean. And that takes everybody's involvement. And then, just to kind of close on this, the interest has never been higher. The excitement has never been higher for Kava. And as we move into 2026, there's just a lot of momentum. And it's really exciting to be leading the Kava Coalition's efforts as part of this broader community of Kava stakeholders. Next slide. So yeah, this is just a picture I wanted to share that follows that last comment. The Solomon Islands are not traditionally a kava consuming country. I first went to the Solomon Islands in 2009, and I was actually working on a research project related to disaster preparedness and tsunamis. But at that time, I was drinking kava, and I was excited to go to the Pacific because I thought that there would be kava there. And when I got there, I couldn't even find anybody who knew what kava was. But then I went back again last year. Michael, Louze, and I both traveled there, and people all over the country are now growing and drinking kava. And this picture right here is of a youth group in Malaita. These are young men who are like 18 years old to 25 years old, and most of them were unemployed, come from very poor backgrounds, but they've created this club organically, like without any outside funding, without anybody coming in and telling them to try this. They created this group because they like to sit down once a week, make kava, drink it, and then talk about their lives and their opportunities. And kava has like created this really important social space for them. And they are also managing kava gardens in Malaita, these young men, and growing kava and using it to generate income. So this is a really good example of how kava can show up somewhere and transform people's lives in a positive way. And this could be a huge economic opportunity for the Solomon Islands and other countries. Just to touch a little bit on the UK Kava Coalition. So beginning early last year, I started working with Simon Geller, who's in the middle of the picture here, and then Mike Salem, who's not in this picture, but also a lot of the Pacific Island High Commissions. This is Viliami from the Tongan High Commission, and our efforts in the UK are to to communicate with the uh, Pacific Island diaspora in the UK. So that's a lot of the rugby players that play in the rugby league, but also just people who live there because the British have a history in the Pacific Islands with the colonial period, and a lot of Fijians and Tongans live in the UK and serve in the military, just live their lives. So we have been connecting those stakeholders and talking to them. And one of the challenges in the UK is that kava is illegal due to the liver scares that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, and their legal framework is not caught up with the science. So we're working 24/7 in the UK to put forward a food safety application for kava to be legalized, and we're working directly with Pacific Island high commissions and communities as the main stakeholders and kind of the fuel for that movement. So that's a little bit about UK Kava Coalition, and we're moving that forward really quickly. Uh, these are some pictures from my trip to Fiji last year. And this is another exciting development and announcement. I met with the Ministry of Agriculture in Suva, the Ministry of Trade, the University of the South Pacific. Um, and there is a project in Fiji and in the general South Pacific called Market Development Facility, that's MDF. Um, and they do market-oriented investments and activities to improve economic opportunities in the Pacific. And Kava is one of the sectors that they work in. So they approached the Kava Coalition after my meetings with them to help to host the a technical guidance portal, which will be a website online, and that will be something that the Kava Coalition works on in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture to provide farmers and kava industry stakeholders with important information, trainings, resources, things of that nature um, to address uh, quality issues with exports, as well as to address important agricultural problems like dieback disease, which has had a huge impact on the kava sector in Fiji. So these are some pictures of Vanuatu. We have some lovely ladies from Pacifikava, and then I visited Michael Louze and some other stakeholders in Vanuatu late last year, and these are some pictures of us drinking kava at Nakamals. And I'm honored to now hand over the presentation to Michael Louze, who's going to give an overview of kava culture in Vanuatu.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, like why Vanuatu? Simply because this is not only where your kava is mostly coming from by far, but this is also where it all started. Vanuatu is a remote archipelago in the South Pacific, 2 hours flight from Fiji, 2 hours flight from Solomon, 3 hours flight from Australia. So it's very easy if you're in America to come over. Just fly to Fiji, and 2 hours later you're in Vanuatu. Um, if all the Pacific Islands have legends in regards to the origin of kava, how kava arrived in this world, scientists are telling us that kava originated from northern Vanuatu, northern Pentecost Island, Maivo Island. This is where kava has been domesticated and then shared to the whole Pacific, shared Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, French Polynesia, all the way to Hawaii. And that highlights the importance of kava in the region. Like you have to imagine all those early travelers, South Pacific Islanders, in their canoes, taking kava cuttings and bring them in for journeys that will last for weeks, and they have kava with them. And I said domesticated because there is no such thing as wild kava that you can drink. All the kava that we are consuming today is kava that is cultivated. There is not drinkable wild kava. That was the point I wanted to highlight. So in Vanuatu, kava is everything. And I'm going to talk about this. There is, of course, the tradition, which is very lively, the culture, and the economy. So in regards to tradition, on the next slide, the tradition is very alive in Vanuatu. That means kava will be present at every, I think previous slide, I'll just go briefly on the previous slide. Every meetings, everything, every ceremonies, you'll have kava involved. Funeral, wedding, circumcise for the kids, that's the picture on the right side. So every year they will have this. And kava, as they prepare the kava traditionally, like that on the middle peak, it's in Maivo. And today, even government of meetings, official, kava will be there to seal any discussion. Next pick, next slide. This is Kava intana, and Kava intana is consumed the way Kava was consumed in most of the Pacific 200 or 300 years ago. Kava was chewed, and intana Kava is still chewed daily by young teenagers and drink. This is a great, very potent way to drink Kava. I'm not going to elaborate too much on this because I've been told my presentation was too long, but happy to discuss about this later on. But yes, tradition is very alive and is not impacted, I'm repeating, is not impacted at all by the way Kava is consumed or used in other places in the world. Next slide. So that was a tradition. Now we've got the Kava culture. This is not tradition directly because this started in urban setting. And this is very, very, very alive in Vanuatu. That means every day you'll come to Port Vila, you'll have more 400 Kava bars like this. Every day they will go and buy their green Kava, grind it with meat mincer, like you can see on the right side. It will often be in urban settings. It will be electric meat mincer. And then sieved and served. Super fresh. No Kava prepared the previous day. Only Kava prepared just right on the spot on the same day. 100%. And 100%, 99% prepared with basal roots, not lateral roots, which is also something interesting because everyone will be talking about only lateral roots, but Vanuatu Kava is very strong. And you drink Kava prepared with basal roots, it will eat you. Another point also is Kava is still consumed the traditional way. No one is sitting on a mat around the tanoa. People are drinking as in the traditional drinking system, standing. No one is sitting. There is no tanoa in Vanuatu culture traditionally, so Kava are prepared also shell by shell. Of course, in the Kava bar system, it's different. Kava is in a bucket, in a plastic bucket, and served, you see, in a plastic bowls, and no one is shocked, no one is outraged, and this is great. This is the way we are unwinding our days in Vanuatu, becoming like a coffee. And this is where also we have many important discussion. It is like a social cement too for the in urban, especially in urban area where you have many youth, many unemployed person. So Kava is really the cement of our social things in Vanuatu. Next slide. But now we're going to another point. So yes, so we have seen the great traditional importance and cultural importance of Kava in Vanuatu. Now I'm going to be very brief, but it has become, in recent years, the economic backbone of our country. It is more than 73% of our export. 73%. Unlike Fiji, we don't have a big tourism industry or sugarcane sort of thing. So our economy is based on Kava. And this is great. We are far away from markets. So we don't have any commodities for which we will be competitive. We will never be able to export fruits or vegetable to most Western markets simply because we are not competitive with Southeast Asia or Central America or Africa. Kava is our chance. And for the farmers, it is the greatest commodity they also have. For the first time, they have a commodity empowering them. I mean, before they had the colonial crops like copra, cocoa, a bit of coffee, it was giving a bit of money. But with Kava, now, farmers are purchasing vehicles. Farmers are purchasing vehicles. Farmers are investing in education for the kids, sending their kids to uni. Farmers are buying boats. Farmers are building strong houses. Anyone coming to Santo, the second largest island where most of the Kava is exported out, will see with their own eyes the Kava Coalition unfolding. The number of vehicles have been multiplied by 5 or 10 in the last 5 to 10 years. It's quite incredible, and it is great to see that. Let's go to the other slide. This is just to show you the recent evolution of market destination. I haven't put the 2025 figures because I'm still waiting for some points. Here you can see that Kiribati was the main market, but in reality, US was the purple one, because when US, you have to add the blue one, which is China, and the purple one. China is processing and re-exporting to the US. So on the bottom, you can see that Kava in the US was growing fairly slowly, but suddenly it increased. And this increase happened because of the development of RTD beverages and shot sort of thing. Next slide. So yes, that's what I was just saying. The extraction market has created a boom for Vanuatu kava. It's now roughly about 40%. It's not only extracted here, it's extracted also in Spain, in France, in China, and in the US. Next slide. And that's an evolution of kava export. That's the bottom line over the last 20 years. So you can see the export volume have increased, but not drastically. That doesn't mean that production has not increased, because the population has increased and definitely production has increased a lot. But our domestic market has increased way more than export. Population is young, more people are living in urban area, and more people have money to drink kava. So yeah, a big part of the increase in production is absorbed by the local market. And on this graph, another point which is interesting, the red one is the volume of foreign currency coming in the country, which is way needed because we all import. We are very heavily dependent on imports, so US dollar coming in the country. And on the green point, it's the price per kilo of kava. It has never been so high. I know that kava bar owners may complain about this, but this is what triggers the motivation for the farmers. With this good price, farmers are planting more. And we can do all the awareness, all the discussion with the farmers, telling them to plant more and whatever. The only thing that will motivate them is good money. And right now, they've got this good money. And so they are planting kava. Of course, we are still a bit short right now, but in a couple of years, finger crossed, it will be better. Next slide. I'm going to be very brief on the kava farming side. If for you guys who have never seen a kava plant, this is what the kava plant, 1 year old kava plant looks like. We are blessed by volcanic islands, very rich soil. We've got like 150 inches of rain every year. So, and of course, this is what the perfect condition for kava growth. You can see on the pictures, it's Gliricidia. It's a legume tree, which has been planted at the same time with the kava, and it's providing good shade. Kava needs shade in its early months, years. Yeah, and at the same time, enriching the soil. Next slide. This is a quick overview. This is a more commercial farm happening, with which I'm involved. And we are doing some, the idea is to be able to find ways to pass down to smallholders for them to increase their production. Kava is only organic by law in Vanuatu, so we're not gonna put crazy fertilizer sort of thing, but we are seeing what we can do. Doing trials with cover crop, improving the planting methods with nurseries to have a better, less mortality rates, use of small machinery and things like this. Next slide. Next slide. Sorry, I'm trying to cover every point, which is fairly hard in the short period of time. Previous slide, sorry. So yeah, on the farmers, previous slide. Okay, on the farmers harvest their kava, they have all the kava is harvested manually. Kava supplied in the UR in all the export markets is 99.9% cultivated by smallholders farmers with no machinery. So kava is harvested manually with a big wooden piece of wood, then washed and sliced, as we can see in the picture, that's in a river, and then sun dried. Kava is from smallholders is 100% sun dried. That's of course bring a lot of challenges, which we're gonna talk later on about. But this is what is happening currently. Slide 2. Next slide. And then because kava is cultivated in remote islands, it has to be shipped through the main export ports. We have 2 export ports in Vanuatu. Santo is the main one, and to a lesser extent, Port Vila. And that's green kava on the left, on the left, and dry kava on the right side coming. So of course, it's coming in small ship. So of course, you've got issues, same as we have seen with small farmers, with potential contamination, etc., etc. So this is something that is a serious issue and that we are working on. Next slide. So yeah, we need, as you have seen, kava is sun-dried by the small farmers. So of course, when it's raining 100 to 150 inch a year, it's not easy to sun-dry. So you've got mold issues and things like this. The farmers have zero access to clean water, zero. It's either a bit of rainwater, which they don't want to waste because they use it for their own consumption or cooking or things like this. The best they can have is river. Sometimes those rivers look pristine, but still you could have birds, rats, pigs, whatever you name it. So we've got contamination happening. And then this is the issue that kava needs to be sanitized either locally or by the importers in the US. This is a picture. We've got a lab checking chemotype and microbial source kava on the left. And this is a small CO2 extractor plant in Luconville, Santo. Next slide. Okay, thanks. Sorry, it was very fast, but yeah, it's hard to cover all the points in details on a Zoom like this. But any question, do not hesitate. Happy to give details. Yeah, answer question. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael. And yeah, just to say, like, if you have any questions about kava agriculture, about the history of kava, like Michael is like probably the best resource that I've ever met for kava information. He even has like a museum essentially of different products that have been sold on the market, like from over like 150 years ago, like little tins of medications that were developed for things like STDs that existed before penicillin. So it's Michael has so much knowledge to share. So if you have any questions about kava at all, like Michael's going to be a great person to reach out to. And also just Michael's been incredible in terms of introducing me to people in the South Pacific and making a lot of the things that the Kava Coalition does a success. So thanks, Michael. Yeah, so if this screen here or this slide is a list of some of our supporters. We want to be growing this every day. Um, if you're a kava bar or a kava vendor, or anybody, or you have a kava product or even like a blog or a website, please reach out to Kava Coalition and we can get your logo on the website and introduce you to how the Kava Coalition works. We always have a lot going on. We meet every other week to talk about all the different stuff that's going on with Kava Coalition. So yeah, please do join. Great, thanks, Megan. Um, yeah, so what the Kava Coalition does is there was a massive vacuum or a gap in the kava industry prior to the Kava Coalition coming together. Um, and a lot of different people along the supply chain were just kind of managing their relationships and importing kava, selling it, serving kava in kava bars. But there wasn't a lot of communication or coordination happening between actors. Um, so what the Kava Coalition is doing, and what I've really focused on in the past year since I came on, is linking and coordinating all of those actors together and making sure that there's an alignment of priorities and goals, in terms of improving the quality of kava, improving the production of kava, and then improving the public's understanding of kava. If everybody's trying to do this independently, then there's a lot of duplication of efforts, and it's better to work as a whole unit in achieving some of these common goals. Even if there are differences, there are a lot of things that we definitely all have in common that we want to achieve. We also do a lot of policy and regulatory engagement. So I spend a lot of time responding to inquiries and issues from kava bars and regulators in states across the country in the US where different policies are made around kava bars. So, for example, in New York State, as we all know, or maybe we don't, there was a determination last year in the Southern District of New York that the state of New York could basically uh, prohibit kava bars from serving kava, and that case was based on the assumption that kava is not a grass food, and that mixing kava with water was essentially an adulteration of the water. So the Kava Coalition, we're working with those stakeholders in New York at the Kava Bar level, but also with the government to try to get them to understand that kava is a food that's been consumed in the US for over 100 years, and mixing kava with water is just a way of extracting the beverage. It's not a mixing things that shouldn't be mixed together, and providing that education and trying to move the needle forward on that. Um, that we're also doing that at the FDA level, because if we can address this issue at the federal level, that will make it a lot more straightforward with states. And yes, there still is a fair bit of ambiguity at the FDA level about what their guidance is. So we really do want to help them develop guidance that's in line with what the industry wants to see. The codex and the fact that Kava is internationally recognized, etc. We also do a lot of research. We fund scientific research on the safety profile of Kava. We have funded the AHP monograph, which is an overview of all of the safety studies hitherto, and the culture and the history of kava, the botany of kava. All of that information is in the AHP monograph. And please reach out to me. We have an executive summary, but if you need a copy of the full monograph, I can connect you to that. We work along the supply chain. So, kind of building off of Michael's presentation, from the farmer in Vanuatu or in Fiji or in the Solomon Islands, all the way to that end customer who's getting their shell of kava in a kava bar. We want to strengthen all the different nodules along that value chain and make sure um, that everything is done with integrity and that it's a sustainable and growing industry. The production of kava has been a big challenge, particularly the last few years. We've seen kava prices essentially double on the retail market in the US. And it's a priority of the Kava Coalition to improve agricultural production in the South Pacific to meet those demands, while also maintaining the quality. We also have a industry standards that we've developed with stakeholders. It's important to note that with stakeholders to test kava for microbials, heavy metals, to basically test to make sure that noble kava is properly labeled and then non-noble kava is properly labeled. So we do biannual market surveys where we buy kava products off the market. We send them to a third-party lab and we have them tested, which is very expensive, for the chemotype contamination. And basically it's like a 10-page document per test. And then we share that information with the vendors of that kava and work with them. And then we release a report that shows like the overall quality of kava on the market. And all of those reports can be found on our website. So it's very transparent. Next slide. So yeah, just really quickly, 2025 was a huge year for Kava Coalition. We got a lot done, and we're really excited to build off of these accomplishments. But just to go through some of them, we continue to conducting these toxicology studies, on rodents to look at the effect of kava on the health of those rodents and to respond to some earlier studies and some earlier claims about kava's safety profile. And those studies are currently underway and finalizing, and that will help improve the reputation and safety profile of kava. Because we all know from thousands of years of consuming kava that it is not causing the kind of health problems that you would think it is when you Google it, or ask a doctor about it. The AHP monograph was published in September. That is now, the most powerful resource or reference when we are talking about kava's safety profile and trying to socialize kava with regulators and other public figures and institutions. We established the International Harmonized Standard, which is what the market survey is based on. We carried out the first ever Kava user survey. This actually um, showed us that 21 million people in the United States consumed kava in 2024. I believe the survey was conducted in 2024. And it's actually funny when Michael and I were in the Solomon Islands, every time I would speak to different community gatherings, I would mention the fact that 21 million people drink kava in the US, and they would just start rolling on the ground in like amazement at this number because it's a country of 700,000 people and they're just kind of starting to adopt kava there, but that number of 21 million people was really surprising to them. Um, so yeah, the biannual quality surveys. So yeah, as I said in the previous slide, we worked with regulatory attorneys, including our in-house legal experts, to communicate with Arizona, California, New York, North Dakota, other jurisdictions. I hold a biweekly call with Kava bars where we talk about the different legal status of those bars in different states. And we've provided materials for those bars to share with inspectors when they come in, that give them very simple, concise information and consistent information. I think that's the most important thing is that all the kava bars are referencing the same information consistently. And that information, gradually gets up to those regulators through those interactions at those kava bars. Um, we've built and maintained close collaboration with Pacific Island governments to support farmers and expand their market access, not just in the U.S., but outside of the U.S. Um, we've issued guidance to kava bars on labeling, and in vendors and sorry, kava vendors on labeling. Very simple things like what's a food and what's a supplement. That makes a big difference. If you have a kava bar and you're buying kava in bags that are labeled as supplements, you're technically not allowed to sell a beverage from that package. So, making sure that people understand these very basic things that don't seem so basic when you first come across them. Um, we kicked off new coordination efforts in the Pacific Islands. I was down there for about a month last year. Um, Met with governments in three different countries, different stakeholders, and also we got a board established of internationally recognized leaders in Kava, and that board, the members of that board will be announced shortly. But basically, we wanted to have a board that reflects the Pacific Islands as well as the U.S. Kava culture. We wanted to make sure that we have people from Vanuatu, people from Fiji, people from other parts of the South Pacific who are members of the Kava board, Kava Coalition board, and can help us in important decisions as we steer this forward. On the right, you'll just see those documents. It's okay, you don't have to go back. Um, our vision for 2026 is to continue addressing these regulatory challenges. We really want some big wins in 2026. We really want clear guidance coming from the FDA that preserves kava and the ability for people to serve kava and people to have access to kava. That's the really major win that we need this year, and we're putting everything and all of our energy into achieving that. Um, the agricultural production situation, we really want to see the needle move forward on this, and our engagement with Fiji, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, and other countries will help that move forward. And then I I think from the Kava Coalition's perspective, in terms of participation, what I want to see is more engagements across the industry. A lot of people in the kava industry, uh, they open kava bars, and it's a struggle, for a lot of people. It's with the prices of kava going up and customers maybe being unattracted to kava because of its cost. They need all the support they can get. And so I've been putting a lot of effort into trying to excite kava consumers to learn more about kava and to support their kava bars and support the kava vendors and also to help bring them into the Kava Coalition. So really the message here is that, if you're somebody who drinks kava on a regular basis, goes to a kava bar, buys a shell of kava a couple times a week, or buys kava online and drinks it at home, like your voice matters a lot in this conversation. So please, engage with the Kava Coalition. Reach out to me anytime. I'm very open and accessible. So that's a huge priority in our 2026 vision. And this, sorry, the picture requires some explanation. So that picture on the right is of Dr. Vincent LeBeau, who I met in Port Vila uh, in October, and it was actually his last week in Vanuatu before he retired. And I've been reading Dr. LeBeau's work for decades. So I was so excited to actually meet him, and I had no idea that it was the week that he was retiring. So I had a very good long conversation with him, and then went to this. There was an art exhibit in Port Vila with all this kava influenced artwork, and we shared some kava and uh, and then he retired. So I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Join the Kava Coalition. You can scan this QR code. Um, and for businesses and kava bars and kava vendors, you can join the Kava Coalition as a sponsor at different tier levels. And then for people who just want to be informed and receive our newsletter and participate in some of our events, uh, you can sign up as an individual. And I really want to emphasize that, like, no, every person counts in this mission, and the more that we can um, give opportunities for people to voice their support of Kava, the better. So please do join us. And then we'll do a brief Q&A, even though we only have 9 minutes. But if you can't get your question in, or you have something you want to communicate, you can email me directly, dlarose@kavacoalition.org. We also have an info email. But yeah, I have not been monitoring the chat, so I don't know, Megan, if you want to look
Yeah,
in the chat and see if there's.
there's two chat comments so far. The first one is from Friendly Islands Kava, Mary. It's more of a comment, but she said in December 2025, the FDA officially deemed traditionally brewed kava safe and a conventional food. And it's a link to, let's see, Lansing State Journal. I don't know if you want to address that, Douglas.
Sorry, I should have asked the question.
It's
Um,
very
so yeah, so I've been seeing a lot of articles, and I believe it was December 22nd, 2025, and the FDA recently published that. So I wasn't sure how, one, accurate that is, if you guys are aware of it, and if you guys project any increase in regulations or, alignment with how food items are being regulated, and if Kava will move towards that way.
Yeah, so the FDA has consistently said when people have inquired, that kava is can be regulated as a food, and that's there was no formal announcement in December that of any change in the FDA's guidance, but that article was published, and it served to basically reinforce what the FDA had said before, that kava can be regulated as a food, and it was an effort to kind of get that online so that people could see that if they searched for kava's regulatory status. But in terms of kava being grass, generally regarded as safe, or the status of kava changing, nothing has officially changed. Um, so we're still working off of communications that the FDA have made in messages to people who've sent inquiries in. And there are some states like Hawaii, has has done grass recognition for kava. Um, but we still have a lot of work to do. And I think working directly with the FDA in Washington and getting some guidance out, some new fresh guidance, with the monograph in mind, and all the different health studies that have been done, would do a lot for clarifying the status of kava.
I see. Okay, so they're just kind of republishing what they have been saying all this time. I'm in Idaho, so they are incredibly strict here. So,
Mhm.
so when I saw those articles, I thought it was okay, just, something new. But okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's a good question. Yeah, that article, I know a lot of people were really excited, when that came out. But it is true in the sense that FDA has consistently said that kava can be regulated as a food. So that should be enough for kava bars to be able to continue operating. But different states have interpreted the law differently, and often incorrectly.
I'm going to move on to the next question. There's two from Darren from Twisted Roots. One is, what methods of ingestion and testing are being employed on these rodents? And then secondly, elephant in the room, how does the Kava Coalition plan to advocate specifically for kava in the face of conflation with other more nefarious botanicals?
Okay. Well, I don't know. We have a science team that conducts the different scientific tests. Um, I'm an anthropologist, so I've never like had to work with rodents before. Just humans. So I might have to get back to Darren. I see you asked that question, so I'd have to get back to you on that. Those studies will be coming out though, and the methodology, I'm sure, will be very well described. And I know that I do know that the woman who's conducting these studies actually like adopts rodents after they're over. So I think the ethics are good, if that's what you're concerned about. For the other question, I really think it's important that the Kava Coalition focuses on Kava. Um, I I don't want I don't want to demonize any other plant medicine that's out there. I don't think it's necessary or appropriate to go after other plants to support kava. Um, and I mean that's basically what my stance is on that. I know a lot of people who've benefited from a lot of different plant medicine and botanics and I think it's important to be understanding and also to like just support the plants that you believe in and want to see succeed and help people.
Okay, those are all the questions from the chat. We can open it up if anybody wants to ask a question out loud, if you just raise your hand. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. Just a nice well done, Doug.
I'd like to ask a
Yeah,
question.
go ahead.
Yeah, so you on this little bullet point thing, you say, what would we like to see more of? And I definitely, well, my name's Holland, by the way. I've been in the industry for 20 years. I started working at a South Florida kava bar in 2006. Um, and for the last 20 years, I've definitely seen a lack of customer knowledge when it comes to uh, all the different aspects of what kava is. I feel like it's kind of the time to begin to become more accountable as kava bar owners and as middlemen. Um, I also am curious, Michael mentioned that there's no clean water in Vanuatu, and yet the kava industry it's a billion-dollar industry. So I'm curious why there is no clean water there, and where is this money going? Is it just going into the pockets of the Americans who own kava bars, and for many who are maybe not holding that space in the most integral of ways? I'm not here to shame anyone, but I think we can do better. And I think that that is a responsibility for this newly formed, Kava Coalition. I think that's a pretty important goal. And then I'm also curious about the nefarious botanical. I've witnessed many, many people have life-changing experiences in not great ways. I won't name it, but I know everybody here knows what I'm talking about. And I I definitely feel like, well, why not just be that bar and not call yourself a kratom bar or a kava bar, excuse me. Why call yourself a kava bar when you're really making all your money off of that? And that's fine, but I think at the core of this is customers are not being informed about what they're about to ingest. And I feel like it is important because it is giving kava a bad name and it is muddling what kava is here for. And so I guess in both paths, it's like I think and I would hope that we can begin to hold each other more accountable for, you know, what we're doing here. And yeah, that's it. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I mean, the two questions and 2 points, but for the latter one, 100%. I mean, when somebody walks into a kava bar for the first time, um, I do 100% believe that it's incumbent on the kava tender or the whoever owns that kava bar to make sure that there's an effort to educate customers on what exactly they're consuming and what the risks of consuming that product are. Um, totally agree with that. Um, in terms of the who's benefiting from kava and cleanliness of water in Vanuatu. I think Michael, do you want to address that
Yeah.
point? Yeah.
Well, the islands are very remote. Um, there is no running water. That's all. So they will have sometime water coming from a stream for their personal use, rainwater for their personal use. So they are buying water tanks and things like this, but having a water tank doesn't make it a potable, clean water sort of thing. Even water from the stream is not, if you analyze it, it will not be up to the drinking water that you will have in the US, for example. So it's, yeah, the government has, the farmers are not relying on the government. It's, those places are really, most of the places where kava is grown are really remote. They will never have some projects to handle these kind of things that sounds normal for people in cities or in big countries.
Yeah.
So you've got small scale water projects.
Yeah, like catchment systems or water filtration systems. And I do think that like if the money were there for these small farmers, they would probably buy these things.
The money is there.
Yeah.
The money is there, but
Yeah.
they don't realize the importance of it. And that's why right now the sanitization, it will be a mistake to believe that it could be done by the small farmers. The sanitization has to be done by people more upstream, either exporters in Vanuatu, buying, sanitizing, or by importers in the US. And that's what is currently happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know several importers in the US doing good sanitization of the kava, and you've got the same thing happening here. But if it has to be done. But thinking that the small farmers will do it or doing trainings about it would be wasting resources actually.
Interesting.
So that's my point of view. Yeah.
Do you think that the farmers are being paid fair for?
Oh, come to Vanuatu. I invite you to come over.
I
And
would
you'll
love
see
to.
farmers. They're paying, well, in Vanuatu, I'm talking about Vanuatu. Farmers are paying Land Cruiser and cash money. Where farmers, I'm sure that in the US or in most big Western countries, farmers will go to the bank and ask for credit to buy a new big vehicle. Some of our farmers, they are buying the vehicle with cash, like 40, you're talking about 40,000 US vehicle. Farmers are doing very well with kava. And that's the first time that they have a commodity giving them so much money and so much power. There was nothing, there is nothing, and there was nothing, and there's never been anything like kava for farmers. And that's why they are planting kava, because it's not only about the export market. Actually, the local market is more rewarding for them.
Probably, because I've heard a few accounts of the farmers being undermined in the prices. And also traditionally the US and the people who live in the US really enjoy or don't enjoy, but they'll traditionally go to other places and extract the resources and underpay and take advantage of small communities. So I would like to see more transparency there for sure.
It could happen in a commodity and industry chain where you've got a surplus. Right now, kava has been short for the last, I mean, everything is getting sold for the last 10 years. Who farmers, they don't need the money. That has to be very clear. No one is starving. No one is begging. We don't have homeless. Farmers, if tomorrow they don't sell their kava, they will still have food. So kava is really a surplus. So if they feel that the price is dropping this month, they don't harvest. And there's many exporters. And that's why it's challenging I'm a kava buyer. I've been doing this for more than 25 years. But if there is too much kava on the local market and suddenly the price dropped by 10% in Villa because too much kava, so next vessel, the farmers will not, they say, no, I don't want to sell 10% cheaper. I don't harvest. They don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
So farmers in Vanuatu, they are controlling the price indirectly. They sell only when they want to sell. And you've got so much competition between buyers because of the limited kava available, and everyone wants to have the kava. Buyers are competing. I'm paying a better price, you should sell to me. Or I'm coming to your doorstep. For the first, buyers are going to the doorstep. Buyers are putting money out there in remote places with agents. So there's not such thing as farmers getting taken advantage of. But of course, if you tell them, do you want $10 more for your kava? Of course, they will say yes. And in 1 year time, they will say, yeah, we want another $10 more. Of course, that's logic. But right now, the price has never been so high, and farmers are doing very well. Just come to Vanuatu. Just saying.
Good to hear. That's good to hear.
I see Darren asked a question about the how Pacific Kava farmers feel about the U.S. kava market and importers. This was actually one of the main things I wanted to figure out, like on my fact-finding mission. So I met farmers and stakeholders in Fiji, Vanuatu, and the Solomon Islands, and um, the majority of farmers, if not all of the farmers, they if you show them a video of a kava bar in the US or a picture of somebody drinking kava in the US, they get really excited and are really happy about it. And the idea of this traditional social beverage in their culture also being celebrated and seen as something beneficial in a place like a major US city is exciting to them. I I don't think I heard any negative sentiment about the kava industry in the U.S. from like the farmer's perspective. I do know that, along among the constellation of actors, there are people like major like social figures and academics who worry about cultural appropriation and how how kava is consumed in the U.S. compared to the Pacific Islands. But I can say from the perspective of the farmers and talking to them and talking to the community leaders in those villages, they see a 100% of benefit, and I think they want kava to be understood and respected, and for the culture to be celebrated. But they have no problem with somebody taking kava. Um, and mixing it with pineapple juice or making a seltzer out of it or doing a CO2 extraction. I think that from what I learned from talking to farmers, and maybe Michael, you can add to this, they were 100% on board with seeing kava kind of expand and grow in markets like the US.
It's not impacting their tradition or their daily life. Like if anyone, as you said, makes kava with anything in the US, it's not affecting them. Like they still have, all the kava will be served in ceremonies locally. It's not impacting what they want is good money for their kava, and that's all. Then people can do whatever they want. Like they don't, they don't feel they will laugh. They will find it funny that people drink kava in a bar, like in bar in New York with whatever. They will find it interesting, funny, but no one will be offended. No one will say, "Oh, this is disrespectful." That's not happening. 0%. I never heard anyone telling me, "Oh, we are offended because they're not respecting the cow." So farmers in Vanuatu, no one cares about things like this. So it's not impacting. That's a market. That's why I said we've got three roads. We've got the traditional, cultural, and economical road of kava. And those three roads are running perfectly, parallelly, not crossing each other.
Thanks, Michael. All right, well, I know that we're a little bit over time, but please, if you have any questions or you want to talk about these topics anymore, I would be happy to have a separate meeting or set up a separate time to talk about it. And and then yeah, send any questions my way. And thank you so much for attending this webinar. We hope that you got something good out of it, and you're excited for 2026 to move the needle forward. And spread the benefits of kava and support kava growing communities across the Pacific Islands. Thank you so much.